Hey everybody, I know a lot of you have been asking for a recap video, so this is what this video is all about. I will talk a little bit about the organisers and the organisation, and then I'll run through as well how my race went. So if you don't really care about that first bit and just want to jump straight to how my race went, then I'll put a timestamp in the comments below or in the description. But if you want to hear about the event as a whole, maybe it's something you're considering doing next year, or in the future, then it may be of some relevance to you. So let's just start from the start. This particular company, AAT Events, are a company that I've done quite a few races with. They do the Surrey Half Marathon, they also do the Way Ahead event, which I really enjoyed, and a few others that I've taken part in, and that's been absolutely fine. But this is my first ultra, and so I chose to run this race for a couple of reasons. Primarily because it's local, but also because I knew of the company and the organisers and had faith that they would put on a really good event, and it would be something that I would feel really comfortable taking part in because of that. There were some things that happened on the day which I wasn't all that impressed with, and I believe they're quite specific to me because when I've looked on Facebook and the comments people have made on there, and I've looked on other review sites for the event, people speak very positively of it, but it could well be to do with my positioning in the race and the distance that I chose to on the day. So I'll just talk you through that anyway, just to be transparent, because that's the experience I had, and I would prefer to be really honest about that rather than pretend that everything was absolutely brilliant. So a couple of things at the start. The kit that we were told to provide, the mandatory kit and all those things, there was no bag checks whatsoever. So I suppose if you were being a little bit cynical, you could say that you could get away with taking things you didn't need at all, and therefore you could have a really light vest. It's just something small, it may be insignificant, but I assumed and I was prepared for some sort of kit check. The face covering at the start was really good. We went in, and the organisation was great for collecting the bibs, not a problem at all with that. And the stagger start, as you saw on the video clip, was also really good, worked really well. A little bit of conversation at the start before we set off, but otherwise pretty straightforward. The interesting part was when we went in to collect a big bib number, there was a big sign saying, make sure you collect your large medal at the end and your buff and all this kind of stuff. Well, I will show you this large medal, and yeah, I'll have to get close to the camera because this is it. I mean, if that's large, then I guess some of us are doing better than we think. But that's not really what I was expecting. So when I collected at the finish line, there was a bit of a right, and yeah, buff is useful, but the medal was a bit, I don't know, not large, put it that way. And they did explain and they did sort of promote it as being this large, whatever medal. But that aside, it is what it is. Now, in terms of the aid stations, this is where I had, I think, most of my issues. Now, as you know, I took a lot of nutrition with me and hydration, so generally speaking I was ready to be self-sufficient, but of course I do need to top up with water, and I thought that later on the race, something simple or something maybe salty would be ideal, and equally a little glass of Coke might be helpful as well. One of the big issues I had was arriving to Walpolston Station, which is around about 20 miles or so. Now bear in mind, at this point the full marathon runners had already joined us on the course. By the time I arrived there, I had to wait. It was probably close to 10 minutes for more water to arrive because they ran out. Now, it's not the volunteers' fault, unless they were responsible for letting them know when they were getting short, I don't know. But that just really stalled my running, and it didn't help at all because I just wanted to keep moving. And as you know, in any race, the last thing you really want to do is be stopping. I like to just keep walking, moving around. So that wasn't great at all. Up until that point, the aid stations that I came across, obviously I'm vegan, so because of that I don't have the same options as everybody else, and I completely understand that, but there was like little cups with 2 or 3 biscuits in, naked bars which I could have, but at some aid stations they were taking them out and cut them in half. I don't feel there's that need to be cutting it in half. Is a little bit, I think it's a little bit tight. They're not all that expensive, and I think a whole one would have been a bit more satisfactory, because I don't really want to turn up to an aid station and eat something that's been exposed. I don't know how long it's been out there, especially when I knew that I was one of the runners towards the back of the field. It was just a bit messy. The aid stations weren't as plentiful as I hoped. The watermelon, I should have filmed it, I suppose. The watermelon didn't appear to be particularly ripe or ready to eat. So again, I avoided that. It's just, I don't know, it wasn't what I'd expect. I've watched other ultra videos, and I think in my mind I thought I was going to turn up to quite a well-stocked table, loads of options, and I completely understand in the current times they can't have everything out for people just to freely pick from. But I don't know, I just wasn't that impressed with what I saw. But again, it could well be because when I arrived at the aid stations I was just too late, and so tough luck on me. But I would have hoped that for the ultra runners there's an expectation that not everybody is going to be whizzing through in record time. So that was a bit disappointing, because yeah, I then just didn't feel like I could really access the aid stations and dip into some food and what they had to offer. I just didn't really feel with confidence. So that was a bit disappointing. And like I say, when you've got then the, after Warburton, you've got then the half marathoners, the full marathoners, and the ultra people out on the course. I know they start at staggered times, but there would be a crossover, and it just means that those people could then be using the aid stations and taking things that they want or need, which is fine. But then the other side of that is then the people that have been running the further distance don't necessarily have the same offer available to them. So that was just something that, yeah, a little bit disappointing, but hey ho. Now in terms of the signage, a little bit small at times, but as you know, I'm a GPX file on the watch, so that was absolutely fine. There was definitely a slight change of route to what I was used to, having followed it previously. That was probably around about the 19-mile mark, but nothing too dramatic, just a slight change of route. And then, as you know from a video, and genuinely this was the case, I was a few kilometres from home, was getting really excited about it, and then the signs disappeared. Now, there was another runner with me, and of course, maybe against my better judgment, I knew a way of getting to the finish, but I didn't necessarily feel that confident to do it. I just had this thing kind of run through my head of, if you go that way and then people see you turn it the wrong way, they might, you could be accused of cheating. If they ask to look at your watch and you're under, just all sorts of things went through my mind. So I kind of ploughed on, just moving forwards, and that turned out to be wrong. But the signs were definitely not there. So I don't know what happened, but they definitely weren't. I'm not incompetent. I would have seen the signs. They weren't there. So that did really spoil the very last part of the race, because it just meant everything dragged on a bit. And I was keen to try and finish within a certain time, and I'll share that with you a little bit further down the line in this video. But yeah, it was disappointing. Yeah, now the finish I've already mentioned, so I just split the section up. The finish, they did offer free massages, but there were only 2 people there, and the wait was 30 minutes. So realistically, you're not going to wait 30 minutes for a massage after you've just finished a race. And again, I'm sure other people were able to walk straight up and jump on the table, but for me, that was my experience there. And of course, there were things like cake, and other little bars to have if you want to, but they weren't appropriate for me. And yeah, then we picked up this absolutely colossal medal here. So yeah, that's the situation with the race itself in terms of my experience. Now, if you are interested in how my race actually went, let's get into that right now. Yeah, so the race itself, I was really looking forward to getting started, getting out on the trails. I hadn't run for maybe just over a week, and that could be the reason why some of these things I encountered on the day, but I don't think so. So I hadn't run for about a week or so, and then I started off, and things were okay for about the first 5k, and then it just started to go a little bit downhill. So I was just feeling quite lethargic and quite tired. Couldn't really put my finger on why. By the time I got to 10k, the pace was just starting to drop slightly, even from the 6:30 per kilometre. There was quite a lot of uphill, and by the time I got to the really big uphill, I was done. I knew at that stage it was going to be quite a long day, because I just couldn't sustain any kind of pace at all. My legs didn't really want to turn over and move. I had hoped going into it that I'd run the first 20 miles, and having done practice runs, I knew that I'd probably do it within between 3:30 and 4 hours, which I've been totally fine with, and then I was just going to figure out the next part. So I was, I suppose, aiming for around about an 8 to 9 hour finish, somewhere in that region, assuming I could run the 20 miles. I just couldn't do it at all. I couldn't get to the 20 mile distance comfortably. It was a struggle, it was a stretch. And yeah, because of that, I just get the time now. My marathon actually went through in 5 hours 48, so that is slow for me, given that actually I felt I could probably do a little bit better than that, or quite a lot better than that. Something to bear in mind though is I did just stop to talk to my family for a period of time during that. I also stopped for water, so you can take some time off of it, but it's in the 5 hours anyway, the 5 hour region. So that made it quite difficult. It was just a very, very tiring experience, and it was disappointing because I wanted to just keep moving forward, and my mind, I felt fresh, I felt good, but my legs just did not want to move at that pace at all. So I then, as you saw in the video, just decided to relax into kind of a fast walk and just take it easy. And then, yeah, I was walking, I think, somewhere between 10 and 11 minute kilometres. So I just decided at probably 26, 27 miles that at the very least that was what it was going to be looking like. The hills did take it out of me at times, but I feel pretty confident that, you know, if I was to return to that course in the future, I could make a really good effort, and sort of like redeem myself. Not that I'm disappointed with what I did, but I think there are elements of it that I'd like to have just seen to be a little bit smoother and didn't quite go to plan. So in that respect, I think I could do better on a different day, but it just wasn't my day. The ultra distance is not something to kind of take for granted. It's a long way. Certainly mine was a long way. 50k would have been an ideal, I think, stepping stone for me, but you know the story with that. So the race itself, I was really happy with my hydration strategy. I moved very quickly from tailwind to water, and that was working well for me. As I wasn't running as much, I wasn't using as much energy, therefore water would suffice. In terms of the nutrition, I dipped into a little bit, but I didn't really feel like eating a lot of solid food most of the time. I felt a little bit sick when I tried to have some, so I was resorting to gels. And again though, because I wasn't running towards the end, not using a lot of energy, didn't really have the same requirement for gels I would have done if I kept moving at some pace. The equipment I use, vest felt great, no issues whatsoever. Shoes, excellent, they were my training pair, I didn't wear my new pair in the end. Drymax socks, awesome, took the spare pair, didn't need it. Yeah, Salomon shorts, everything was great. I had no blisters, no chafing whatsoever. From that point of view, I really can't fault what I did. I did tape up both feet and ankles just because I wasn't sure if there was going to be more tension on that part of my body throughout the day, so I take them up ahead of time, and that seemed to work well. But equally, I don't really know, I've never used tape before, so I couldn't say for sure that it was kind of a saving grace, but it definitely felt more supportive. And here we are a few days on. Legs feel pretty good, just, you know, general fatigue as you would imagine, and the main thing that was sort of sore and a bit uncomfortable was my shoulders and my back, so I think I'm just holding myself a little bit tense throughout the experience of the run. But overall, if you want to look at the paces, this is on Strava, but it was not that interesting really. I can make a GPX file available if you want as well. I really enjoyed the experience, and I would certainly do another one. I think it's also just accepting that you know what your pace is and what your ability is, and on the day, that's the best I could do. I couldn't do any more. I wanted to run, I couldn't do it. And other people were experiencing similar things, which was quite reassuring for me, especially when I was talking to people who are more established ultra runners. They were just saying, can't get their legs moving any quicker. So that's nice to hear, because I was starting to kind of doubt myself. Yeah, that's it really. There's probably more that I've forgotten about. If you'd like to know anything more specific, pop in the comments below, because I'm more than happy to answer for you. But that just gives you the general roundup of how I felt the organisation was for the race, how I felt my experience was in the race, and yeah, I'll kind of hand it over to you if you've got anything else you'd like to know. But thanks for watching, thanks for the support throughout the entire journey. It's been a long one, and yeah, here's to more runs in the future, and I will let you know what I've got planned, what's on the horizon for 2021. And hopefully you can squeeze in some more events before that as well. So take care, and I will see you soon.